evening, YouTube. Today it is Thursday the 1st of June and I wanted to give you an update as to how today has gone. But before I do that, I do need to give you an update as to what happened after I finished yesterday's video. So I finished my drop-off at 4:05 going to Kelso yesterday, and then I found somewhere to camp up really close on the trading estate to where I'd dropped off. And I was looking for jobs and nothing really came up. Not much came up at all, which I wasn't surprised about. So I'd kind of settled in for the night and I was prepared to tramp on the trading estate that I was at. And then at a few minutes before 7 o'clock, a job came up on the system, and it was going from Edinburgh to Peterlee. When I looked at it on the map, it was going a significant way towards where I wanted to be, which was the Hull area, for the following day. So I did put a bid on it. It was a small van job, leaving at 9:40 this morning, and it was down as being 145 miles. So I put on a bid of 150, just over £1 a mile, because I felt that that was going to get me closer to where I wanted to be the next day, albeit a bit later than I would like it to be. I would rather have left more like 7 from Edinburgh, but I couldn't do anything about that. So it wasn't an ideal job, and also it actually wasn't going quite as far to Hull as I thought it was on the map. Later on I found out I still had 100 miles to go to my first pickup, but it was a good move for me to make. And the other issue was I was going north from Kelso towards Edinburgh before I went south again, so there were some dead miles to get the job. I think it was about 40 miles, about an hour of journey. So because of the time in the morning and because of my inability to get up very early in the mornings, usually, I did what I was always going to do, which was to tramp, but I moved myself from Kelso closer to my pickup point in the morning. So I then drove from getting that point, getting that job, towards Edinburgh, looking on the park for the night app for somewhere to stay. And I was aiming to get within about 10 miles of my pickup point. The pickup point was right in the centre of Edinburgh, so I wasn't going to go all the way in the centre of Edinburgh. So I did that journey. I found somewhere in a lay-by just before the ring road in Edinburgh to park up. I got myself ready. It was about 12 miles from my pickup point, about 20 minutes-ish, maybe 15 minutes. But I was aware that in the morning it would be longer than that, so I was giving myself about half an hour's leeway to get there in time. So my plan was to leave at 9 o'clock for a 9:40 pickup, and I was hoping to get there a bit earlier. So that's what happened last night. I tramped, I got this job, and I was set for this morning to start off doing this job. I did ring, when the lady rang me to give me the job, I did ask her what the job was, and she was a bit vague about it. It said she thought it's a few models. So I didn't really know what to expect. So I thought, well, they must be really expensive and really delicate. So I was expecting sort of a smallish load, but quite valuable. Anyway, so I went to bed and got a fitful sleep because I happened to chosen to park into a really busy road. It didn't quieten down really until midnight, so I didn't get much sleep, although I did sleep obviously because I was able to do today's work. So in the morning, this is this morning now, I took my, so in that case I want to give you a slight amendment to yesterday's stats because it's some extra mileage. So yesterday's stats, the key figures are as follows. I still made before earnings £250. After fuel was taken into account, the fuel cost was now £40 because of my tramping, moving towards Edinburgh. So I actually made yesterday, after fuel, £210. My mileage for the day was 310 miles, and so that clears up yesterday. Right, today, so I got into the pickup. It was a student. When I got it down, it was a student's flat, and I suppose I should have realised what I was doing at that point, but I was still very naive. I am still very naive about these things. Bearing in mind the time of year and where I was going, I probably really should have known what was coming up. So I arrived at the place about 9:20, and I was about 20 minutes early, but I thought I'm sure it's a residential place, so someone will be home. And then I was confronted with a young chap who wanted me to take his boxes, all his university stuff from his university residence, to Peterlee. And the first thing that he said to me was, "Oh, can you hang on for an hour or two while I get my key?" And I went into a mild amount of panic at this point, because I thought, not really, I've got a job to get to in Hull at some point today, and this is going to be a good 3-hour journey. So I and ahed. I was not sure what to do, so I just do what I usually do in the situation, give myself some time. So I just started taking some boxes down from, he was on the 4th floor, taking some boxes down to my van. He had about 35 boxes in the end. So I started taking them down, just thinking, what am I going to do here? The first obvious thing is I had to contact the shipper and explain what's going on. And so I called them and I explained the situation. But then by the time I've called them, I sort of thought, well, we don't know what's going to happen quite yet, do we? We don't know what time we're going to finish off. I had asked the customer how long he thought he would be before he gets to his new address. He said it'd be about 2 o'clock. So when I looked at my travelling time, I was going to be about 1:30 myself. So actually, when I'd sort of looked at the facts, even if he had waited around for 1 or 2 hours, I could get loaded and get on. It wouldn't really affect my job at all. So my initial panic dissipated because I gave myself that time. I spoke to the shipper and explained the situation, explained to them how I felt about the job. I felt that it had been advertised, really. But I would just let them know at the end what was going on. To be fair to the shipper, when I got the job, she did say that she thought there might be some handballing. So my handballing from the 4th floor down to the van, I was pretty sure I would be able to get that paid for. And so there was never really any doubt in my mind about, once I had my initial panic, whether I should get the job done and just focus on getting it done. I did quickly get to that point in my mindset, and I was never really in any doubt I'd get paid for it. But I had to have that kind of, in my head I was thinking, how do I cost this up? How do I broach that with the shipper? I don't feel comfortable necessarily doing this sort of thing, but it's really important that you do as a driver. But anyway, I had plenty of time to think about it because I had a 3.5-hour journey to work it out. So I said to the shipper, we'll wait till we finish the job, and at that point we'll have a conversation and we'll see what ends up happening. So she was happy, I was happy, and the customer, I think, was at this point happy as well. So I then did this job. So the customer went on his train, gave the keys into his accommodation, got the train to Durham, got the keys for his new accommodation, and got a taxi to his new house. And in that time, I just travelled straight from Edinburgh to Peterlee, and as it was, I got there 15 minutes before him. So really no waiting time for me, because what I was then doing was I started to unload the boxes while I was waiting. So really, my handballing. Oh, and that handballing was just into the first floor of a house, not up a load of stairs or up to a fourth floor. So the handballing off the van was so much easier than handballing onto it. So by the time I'd finished, I'd got everything unpacked and signed off, and it was around about 2:30, 2:45, that sort of time. So I rang the shipper. I thought to myself, what would be a fair amount to charge? And I thought £20, I'd be happy with that. So I kind of said as confidently as I could, I thought that for the handballing involved, I'd like to have £20 extra for this job. Would you be okay with that? And she said that, yeah, that's fine. So there was never any issue with me getting the money I wanted for this job at the end. So I didn't panic externally, but inside, when I first got there, I was really not sure how this was going to go. Okay, so that's the end of that job. So I left there, and I realised before this, but then I had to then do my job of picking up from. It was actually Beverley, not Hull. So Beverley was my first pickup for today, and that was 100 miles from where I dropped off my first drop. So I had about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours journey to get to my. No, it was an hour and a half because, yeah, that was it. I did something for the first time today. I had my sat nav set for no tolls, and then I put my second phone on, and it was I didn't know, but it's set for tolls, and so the second phone gave me a 45-minute quicker route, and I thought, what's going on here? I instantly thought, oh yes, I know, it's a toll road, and I looked at it, and it was the Humber Bridge. So I was going from Beverley after my first pickup across to Cleethorpes, and I was really tempted to save some money and go the long way round, but because I'd got my £20 extra for the morning, I thought, let's splash out, and I don't know how much it's going to be, but I'm going to do the Humber Bridge toll and save myself 45 minutes. And boy, am I really glad I did that. It was only £1.50. I was really pleased about that. Saved me 3/4 of an hour, and there was even a guy in the toll booth. Nowadays you don't get that very often. It's usually automated, and he was really nice. I smiled at him and said thank you. It's just nice having a person to do the tolls. So good on you, Humber Bridge, and the people who run it. So yeah, so I skipped over my first pickup, which was Beverley. I picked up there. I arrived there about 5:05ish, and then I got to Cleethorpes about an hour and a half later because I used the Humber Bridge. Did my pickup there, and I'm now on my way to my third pickup, which is Grantham. I'm not going to do my fourth pickup today. I'm going to take the opportunity to head off home after I do my pickup in Grantham and sleep in a bed tonight. I live about half an hour from Grantham, so I'll get the 3 pickups done today, and then I'll do the last one in Stevenage tomorrow on the way down. So that's the beauty of this job, it's very flexible. So for the stats then for today, I've put in my final mileage and time for when I get home today. And so today I will have, when I finish, I will have worked for 13 hours. I would have driven 373 miles, 373, and that equates to a cost of just under £48 for fuel today. And today I only made money on one job because, as I've said in a previous video, the job I'm currently doing I won't finish till tomorrow, so I'm not going to put the earnings for this job until tomorrow. So that would mean that my net earnings after fuel for today is £122. I think that's everything I want to say about the stats. So I want to finish off on a lesson that I've learned doing this job. and it's reminded me about my experience today about the job that was a bit different and the communication with the shipper. So what I try to do whenever I accept a job is I always try to remember to ask the shipper's name who I've spoken to on the phone, and I make a note of that on my POD just for my reference. The reason why I think that's a good thing to do is it builds a rapport when you're having the first phone call that otherwise you wouldn't build up. B, if you've got any particular issues, I know I'm going to ask for a particular person, and I don't think it matters that you remember the name, because if you called in a shipper and gave them either your name, your number, or CX number, your company name or your name or CX number, they'll find the job really easily, and they'll know from that who is the person that set up the job. But it's just nice to ring in and say, is X there? Is Y there? It feels to me more like a friendly and more professional approach. And I suppose the third reason why I do that is I'm hoping to build up links. So if I do have the same name coming up in the company over and over again, they might remember me, and I can use that to remind them, oh, I've spoken to you before about something X, Y, Z. So I am trying to get to a point where I'm building up links with companies that can give me work and that will know who I am and will trust me and will turn to me for any jobs, perhaps before I go in on CX. I think that would take a long time, I think, but that's what I'm trying to do. And I suppose the other thing I learned, which everyone says, it's really obvious, whenever anything goes wrong or is different to what you expect, always contact the shipper and let them know straight away. When I had the conversation with the shipper this morning, it really reduced my anxiety about the job when I just felt that they weren't going to mess me around. Sometimes you might talk to a shipper and they're trying to sort of squeeze every little thing out of you, and perhaps try and abuse the situation a bit. I think by talking to them, I felt at ease that the shipper I used today, and I was proved correct, would treat me well, would treat me fairly. And I think by talking to them when I had the problem at the start, that reduced my anxiety about doing the job and my frustration about doing the job. And in the end, the job was just another normal job that passed off without any issue in the end. Okay, so that's what I've learned by doing this job, and that's a good example from today. Thank you very much for listening to my video. What have you learned today?